Hello and welcome to another edition of Indiepocalypse Radio. I'm your host, as always, every week, Andrew. I'm the creator, the editor, the all the stuff around Indiepocalypse, of which there is a brand new issue this week. But I am hot off the. I've launched an Indiepocalypse, and then I did my usual routine of just chilling out watching movies, sometimes with a friend if schedules line up, off sometimes with myself. So Indiepocalypse is cool. I'm just thinking about Stalker all the time right now.
Wait, what did you watch?
I just watched Stalker last night.
What's that?
Uh, 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 a 1979 Russian slow burn film about the zone.
That's so awesome. I'm trying to get better at watching movies.
I think it's Andrzej Tarkovsky. If I pronounced it right. It's the breeziest 2 hours and 40 minutes you've ever seen.
That's cool.
Yeah, I loved it. It was I did a thing where this guest here. I'll introduce my guest in a second. I've been gifted and purchased a lot of Criterion films over the years, and I have a rule where I can't put away things that I buy until I watch them or read them or whatever.
Mm.
So
hmm
I'm finally working through my pile of stuff, and that was trying to watch one movie a day in terms of getting fully movie mode. This guest who has spoken up, who I don't know her movie mode status, you may know from issue 20, not 20, 17 of Indiepocalypse, so long ago. I got almost more than over a year ago. It's just but 17 sounds like a big number, but it's not. It's yeah. Anyway, with Lucius, Lena Wu. Lena, hello. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm great. It does feel like it's been a super long time since I got an email from you and you were like, "Can I include this game
Yeah.
in my anthology?" And I was like, "I literally made that when I was in grade 10. I don't know
Yes.
why you want it,
Because
but that's great."
10th graders are sometimes onto something, you know?
Yeah, it's from my era of when I was in grade 9, I joined the video game development club at
Yeah.
my high school, which was run by my good friend James Yu, who is now doing software development stuff in New York, doing big things.
Yeah.
But I got really interested in games through that and just developing games and stuff. Um, and I eventually also ran that club with a couple of my other friends, like when I moved into upper years of high school, like grade 11 or 12 or something, I guess. Just thinking about how to make game development accessible to people.
Yeah.
Because it was something fun that I like to do for school assignments or just to as a storytelling tool. But I'm really not a programmer or I have whatever is the opposite of math brain
Yes. Yeah. No.
is
Yeah.
what I have.
Right. I'll tell you, I have a decent amount of math brain, but I also am bad at programming. uh,
Yeah, programming sucks. I was just using any kind of software that had a user interface that
yes.
made sense,
If if I remember correctly, was your game made in Adventure Game Studio?
Yes, and I
Okay.
loved using Adventure Game
Yes,
Studio.
that's what I started in, and I can see its telltale signs, and I remember the comforting warmth of Adventure Game Studio.
I know, yeah. And what's sad is that after I made that game, I tried to make another game in Adventure Game Studio that was so long and crazy.
Yeah.
And I made it all, but it had so many programming errors that it didn't work basically. And I don't know, it's in one of my hard drives somewhere and it's something that a child spent an entire summer on and it just
I
doesn't work.
I also have an Adventure Game Studio thing that a child spent an entire maybe year or so on. That is way too overambitious, and it has
Yeah.
it relies on these. Listen, this concept is way too high concept. It was but this is also why I there's I like to see youthful passion in, because they're not ruined by the idea of making marketable, sensible video games. There's
I
like,
know, it's so dope. It's so dope to make like just broken stuff where it's like, oh, the download doesn't work, but you can like play the demo on like my computer when you come to my house after school. Like
right.
it's like that. That's the vibe.
Yes, it is this intense like it's not it's not naive art, but it's something adjacent to it. It's like
Yeah.
it's really it's not business build art is what it is. It's like the idea that games don't have to have gameplay loops or whatever
hmm
and be like these marketable ideas.
Yeah, so at that point in time, I was just thinking about like, when you're a teenager, you have like a lot of angst and like big feelings and stuff.
Yes.
So I was just like trying to kind of think of different ways. I could like use narrative or like storytelling to like kind of get those big feelings out there. And like during that time period, like when I was in high school, I was also using like RPG Maker. What was the old RPG Maker that like Ib was made on? Like all those like old
Probably
JRPGs.
like 2000 or something.
Yeah, something crazy like that, right? And like I really got into it because I was following Anatola Howard on Tumblr, who is like this really amazing artist and animator. Um, and they released like an RPG Maker game that they made like just through Tumblr. And I was also really into these like older JRPGs, and I was just trying to use these like really broken like pirated software
Yeah.
to make video games about like what it's like to be in high school. And I made this one where I like the main character was like a version of me, and in the game you had to like beat up nerds and stuff like that, like, and it was like a high school survival kind of video game.
Yeah.
So it was fun to just make janky shit like that.
Yeah, there's so much like there's so much janky art. It's so easy to make. There's nothing there's few things more beautiful than a high school assignment where one group decided they were going to make a video.
Yeah,
And,
it's so great.
and like uh most high schoolers don't understand, cinematography or
I actually went to a high school with like this kind of like integrated arts program,
yeah.
which was like the reason why I made that game anyway. And we had a lot of assignments like that where it was like, make a movie, like just figure it out, or like, do this photo manipulation, just figure it out. And you kind of get like a lot of free range and like control over what
Yeah.
it is you want to make. So I
Yeah,
feel really lucky to have like been in that program.
yeah, we did not have that. We had a couple students who happened to have like a family video camera and a lot of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And it was like it doesn't
Jackass.
look right. It doesn't look good. It has that like everything is wide shots basically,
Yeah.
but it's like there's a beauty to it because there's people there. There's the human touch of art in that.
That's yeah, I don't know. There's something really beautiful about teenagers making art, and like even though I've kind of I don't know, I don't feel like I've moved on from games, even though I haven't made a game in a long time.
Yeah.
Like basically the only time when I really do anything games related is like usually I'll try to do Toronto Game Jam every year. And I started doing that when it was being hosted in person before the pandemic at
Right.
George Brown College in Toronto. And just wrangle some of my friends who knew how to program to make something over the weekend with me. But it's been a while since I did that, and like I don't know, I still feel like I'm obsessed with games. Like I watch Super Smash Brothers all the time. It's crazy.
Just like tournaments or just like people hanging out and playing.
This was my pandemic hobby, okay?
Yeah.
Like I got so deep into competitive Super Smash Brothers.
Okay.
Not playing it in any
Right.
way,
Right.
but just like watching people do like crazy shit with it. So it's like as much as I try to escape from from games and kind of that culture, it's every all parts of it still follow me in my life.
Right. There's it's like in a or it's becoming more like I feel like it's starting to take shape in different ways now, and it's becoming
Mm,
like we don't have like for instance the same kind of uh, cohesive like art culture around games really.
yeah.
But it's like slowly things like that are like slowly starting to take shape because it's also such a weird medium compared to other mediums in that.
Yeah, it's weird because you can go like super commercial with it,
Yeah,
like in the sense of like, Smash Brothers, which is obviously just like Nintendo and it's like huge and it has like all these other different commercial offshoots. But then it's fun to also find like abandonware and like, the stuff that we were talking about earlier, where it's like no one's ever touched this or hasn't witnessed this for a long time, but it's
yeah.
still like such a viable storytelling medium
I
that's so
think
important.
I think a lot about there is or was like some kind of club or group in Japan that would buy lots of old like RPG Maker carts and just play the games that were saved on them
Oh.
and just
Oh my
like
God.
yeah, these like what were these high schoolers? What were these grade schoolers making on RPG Maker? What is their version of Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy that they got 10% of the way through and gave up on?
Yeah, like it's so empowering to be a child and like have access to tools that can do that. Like I think about Twine too.
Yeah,
Like Twine was my favorite thing to teach when I was running video game development is like I don't know because there's so many possibilities for it because it's like in you can play it in the browser and it's like lightweight too.
yeah.
Like just stuff like that is really cool because you don't need to know how to program or anything.
Right. I think a lot of that energy has transferred like over to Bitsy as well.
Oh yeah, what's that? I haven't heard of it.
Bitsy is like a 1-bit kind of like simple story editor kind of thing, game maker thing. It's trying to think how to describe it. It's basically just like this 4-way controls and you tap on things to interact with them and talk to them but it's also like super lightweight and you can make it in browser and all that stuff.
Oh my
And
God, I have to check that out.
yeah, and it really like allows people to like in like I think from like a stand like a what's the word I'm looking for from like the simplest non-accurate description of it, you can think of it kind of like Twine but graphics in terms of how quickly it allows you to just like start making games.
Oh, it's by Adam Ledoux.
Yes.
I think I've seen some of their other tools before.
Yeah, it's
Um, but
and
that's super.
there's like hacks on hacks and hacks of it. So some people like there's 3D versions of it and all these sorts of like different hacks on top of it. But it's very much like Twine, where it's like a very low weight. So like people also forget that computers that can easily run like Unreal or whatever are expensive.
Yeah, and like I don't know, because now I'm more entrenched in like the fine arts world.
Yeah,
Just to give a bit of background information, I like a couple of years ago, I finished my undergrad at OCAD, which is an art school in Toronto, and I majored in illustration. And in September, I'm going to U of T for visual studies, so like studio art kind of stuff.
yeah,
But even in those kinds of like fine arts contexts, you have a lot of people using new media and like using games specifically to kind of, I don't know, yeah, just like to conceptualize these like frameworks that they're kind of using in the fine arts scene as well. Like I'm thinking of, for example, like Molly Soda, who's like this feminist performance artist,
yeah.
and she used Twine to like make one of her projects recently too. Um, and when my friend showed me that, I thought that was really cool. It's like it's so versatile, you know? It doesn't
Right.
have to be for adventure games. Like it can just be for like interactive experiences and like for these broader concepts too.
Yeah. They're 'cause, like yeah. There is the thing. I mean, obviously to some extent, it has me much what like my whole thing is that games don't actually have to be about little guys running left to right and collecting points.
Yeah, it's fucking avant-garde here.
Yeah,
Like
you
it's
can
avant-garde in this Indiepocalypse.
you can do base games are just like another medium that you can do whatever you want. Like we were talking in the pre-show a little bit how I am hosting a wavelength watch along on my upcoming pledge drive next month, and that is like that is as a film is very far from the the Super Mario Brothers movie, you know. but but they're both arguably films.
Yeah, it's true. We don't think about games as such a diverse medium like film, but it really
Yeah,
is. Like, yeah.
yeah. It's mostly because nobody gives money to the things on the avant-garde side of games, really, unless
Yeah,
probably
that's true. I mean, here in Canada, you can get art council funding for that
yeah.
kind of thing. I don't know if you have something similar in the States or
Not
like
really, not as much.
no, yeah,
No,
probably
no.
not.
I mean, there are arts grants, I think, but there's less of. I remember I was watching a stream and someone was saying that in Canada perhaps there's more like they have arts funding because they don't want all their culture to just come from the United States, uh, and we are in the United States, so or we when I say
Yeah, that's
we,
true. You're like capitalism's already churning this out. It's like we don't
right,
need
right,
government funding.
right, exactly. We don't need the government to pay for. Uh, to have not just have U.S. culture dominate us because we are U.S. culture. You know, it's
Yeah,
our
yeah,
it's our export. It's our main export.
yeah,
It's just war and movies
yeah.
and movies about war.
Oh, oh no.
Yeah, what a listen. It's a fun little country to live in.
I mean, hey, Canada also has that kind of legacy, but
Yeah,
I guess we're more like protective about, I don't know, quote unquote Canadian culture, which
right.
obviously I have my own qualms about, but
Yes, there is a whole. I remember going to a movie, like just going with friends to go to a local theater to watch RRR, and I remember going. I remember especially when it hit the end credits. I'm like, wait a minute, uh, wait a minute here, what's going on here? Like I don't think I watched fully right wing propaganda, but I don't think I watched something that wasn't that far removed from it. But coming from a
yeah.
different culture, there is like I'm like yes, the British, the white people, you stuck it to them, but there's like it's easy to forget. I think as people very much try to ingratiate themselves in everybody else's culture constantly, that it's way more complex than you can learn from a Twitter thread.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I remember seeing someone being like, maybe you should just focus on like it's better just to focus on like your local self and not like everything all the time.
Honestly, that's helped me a lot because like um I just realized I'm like talking about myself as if I'm super old because
Yes.
I was about to say like, oh, when I was young, I'm still young.
Yes.
But I was like really I don't know, it's easy to get like overwhelmed about what's happening all around the world.
Right,
And it's
right.
like important to keep up with that stuff, obviously, but it's like ultimately where can you exercise the most power in terms of like making change and stuff? And usually it helps to start small and to understand those local issues like really well.
Yeah, you don't have to like be involved in literally every single thing.
Yeah,
Like
everything that you see on Twitter, like there's already people organizing
yeah.
around a lot of things. It's like you don't need to you can't be everywhere all the time. Yeah.
I remember I saw just this morning someone is like I'm making a co-host page that's keeping track of all union activities and I'm like I understand but maybe you are not you don't have to be fully invested in like the Arizona Textile Union, you know. maybe
Yeah, true.
maybe you can like be like I'm fine. I don't have to like rack my brain about everything because I think that's also how people burn out on things.
Yeah, it's important to think of like a way you can be sustainable also.
Yeah, 'cause instead of
Yeah.
just being like I'm passionate about every union Uprising, and then you do that for a year, and then also I think people also I think get very caught up on things happening immediately.
Which, I mean, when you're young, maybe you have
Yeah.
all of that expendable energy. You can just spend a summer making an adventure game studio game that will like never get published and stuff. But it's like, yo, as you get older, it's like I don't have unlimited gas in the tank anymore.
Yes, I don't have. I did a spreadsheet of how much time I have during a week to do like to do like indie apocalypse stuff basically, and it was like not a lot of
Yeah,
time during a week.
yeah.
Unless I don't watch movies at night and I work on the weekends, but you'll never take my weekend away from me.
So what's your day job?
It's not exciting. I work in an office
Oh
in
yeah, I mean,
in local
I used to
business.
be I am and I was and probably will be in the future an arts administrator,
Yeah.
which is like nice because it's like you're working in the arts, but at the same time you're essentially sending emails at a desk. So
It's my work is completely unrelated from the arts work, and it's a great thing to just like clock into this unrelated job and then leave and be done.
yeah, that can be nice too. Yeah.
But before our time's getting low, so let's the thing we went through all this time, we danced around and we talked vaguely about it, but cast your mind back to 10th to grade 10, and what is Lucid Lucy?
I don't know. I don't understand. I think I went into it thinking like, okay, I
Yeah,
want to play with textures. I want to play with like this idea of alienation and like being not understood, being
yeah,
kind of like obscure. And I think that's kind of the experience that the player has, being like, what the fuck is going on, sort of.
right.
And I wanted to make it a little bit disjointed, to kind of emphasize that aspect of alienation. But mostly, like, I have a lot of fun just doing some visual experimentation.
Yeah,
Like, whenever I make games, I love doing mixed media. Like, I love using photographs, and like pixel art, but then also like pencil drawings and stuff like that. And I think that was really, I don't know, for some reason in games specifically, it just makes sense for me to use mixed media in that
right.
like specific way. So that's kind of how that I developed that style is through this game. And then it was fun that like after I released it, I saw some like Russian furry play doing a playthrough of it on YouTube or something. And I was like, this is fucking awesome. Like I need to
Yeah,
make more of these.
yeah. There is like, and that's part of why I like to go back and find people's like old games, because I think especially like non-commercial games, they very quickly get lost to like the ether, you know. And I've
Yeah, but there's like it's they get lost in the ether, but there are some people who like there are vultures who are just
yeah,
like picking through the scrapyard.
yes,
Like there's
that is me. I'm the vulture. I'm the one who's like I'm at the used record bin trying to find the next oh god, I forgot their name, that weird trio that of amateur musicians. You know, the one History of the World. It was that
oh no, I don't know it, but
was that the name of the album? No, that's
I get your gist though.
yeah, exactly. I'm trying to find just like, hey, check out this game. Someone made in grade 10. It's very cool.
Yeah, there's vultures like Andrew, and there's the Russian furries,
Yeah.
and then there's like there was this Tumblr called Warp Door.
Yes.
Uh
Yeah, they have like Twitter and other stuff too.
yeah, yeah. Are they still active? But I don't
They
know, they
are.
like featured my game there too, and I was like, whoa, like and just the itch marketplace, like itch is like such the most sublime website to be on at all times.
Yeah.
So that also helps. Yeah.
And before we go, one important question that like this comes every week, and I need to know. Mochi needs to know. Do you have a favorite Toho character?
I don't know what Toho is, but it sounds
Perfect.
like anime.
Thank you. That is an acceptable answer to that question. They're like shrine maidens and witches. It's a bullet hell. This is a short answer.
Right, right, right. Sorry.
Fairies, all sorts of other stuff. There's a lot of.
Yeah.
We don't have time to explain Toho. Uh, Lena, thank you for being here. We're gonna go on break, and then we'll be back with our next guest.
Thank you so much.
No, glad to be here. Be back in like roughly 1 minute and 58 seconds.
All right, see you then.
Hello and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was Midnight Ping Pong with what Google Translate tells me is a song called Palpitations, or Palpitation rather. Welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. We are here with our next guest, who you may know from issue 37 of Indiepocalypse. Not quite as old, but on its way out every month. With Haram or Haram rather. I think yes. I'm gonna go with
Correct.
that.
Yeah, the
Yes,
latter.
yes. That's what I thought. I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Steph Pinto. Steph, hello. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me, Andrew.
Glad to have you here. Important question. I want to get this. What is going on? Reset. I want to reset my timer. I missed it with the first guest, but now with the second guest, I can ask for certain the indie apocalypse question people are dying to know. Uh,
All right.
well, more than I'm dying to know is an informal bit of survey taking is how did you hear about indie apocalypse?
Um, that's a great question. I think I was browsing Twitter back when I'd first made my account in 2019, and I think just one of the people I follow, because there's a lot of people in my sphere that follow Indiepocalypse. One
Yeah,
of them must have liked or retweeted something that you had tweeted, and I looked at it and I thought, oh, that's really cool. Just the whole initiative. But I think the thing that drew me in most was the cover arts, specifically the fact that each one was a different style. I was like, oh, that's a cool cover art. Let's see what Indiepocalypse's steez is like. And I went on to your itch page and I saw all these different issues. I thought, wow, that's really cool. So then I actually, clicked the pages and was checking out the games, and I'm like, oh, okay, like that's really, really cool actually. And I just kind of kept the idea locked in my head. Like at the
right.
time I was working on my very first game that I was just planning on releasing, and like that's it, not didn't want it to be a part of anything. Um, and then I had been working on my second game and was just really preoccupied with that. But with this third game, which we'll talk about, as the segment progresses,
Yeah,
I think this is really, really fitting for the anthology. It's a weird, artsy game that is short and really alternative, and I think you would have liked it, and I think that people who regularly tune in to the Indiepocalypse releases would like, so I just shot my shot.
oh, perfect. And this thing you and the game you shot your shot with. Tell me a little bit about it.
Right, so the game is Haram. I guess before I go into what it is, I'll give a bit of a background as to what led to the creation of it. So prior to me starting development on Haram, I was working on my second game, Cookies, which was a VHS PlayStation inspired horror game that took inspiration from all kinds of horror movies, cult cinema,
Yeah,
alternative culture, and I guess the political climate in the US as well. And during the development of that game, I had decided to make 10 different endings just because. And each ending, when you would unlock it, would have a little VHS box, kind of as if the storyline was a film that you could view in a menu, just
yeah,
because I thought that was a fun detail. And I had been working on a storyline that involved corrupt policemen, gangster rappers, the cartel, and all of that. And I intended to call the storyline Thug Tears, named after the song by the rapper JPEG Mafia.
yeah.
But get the I couldn't get an art style working well for this fake VHS cover. So then I went with the title Pig Knuckles instead for the storyline. And with that I was thinking, okay, with that title I got a lot to work with. I could, you know, well, eventually I just made like a kind of faux horror movie VHS box with pigs on it, and it was cool. But while working on that, I was starting to kind of realize, and I touched on this in my post-mortem for the issue, that pigs are kind of like a symbolism powerhouse.
You're right.
Yeah, like, I find pigs kind of really freaky, to be honest. Um, when looking at pigs, there's a lot of things that come to mind for me. For one, well, in Judaism and Islam, they're forbidden, so that's pretty serious. Um, on top of that, even though they're not that dirty, like pigs are typically viewed as gross, dirty.
Right,
Um,
right. Like real
what else?
sloppy. They're rolling
Yeah,
around in
really
the mud.
sloppy. I mean, just the term pig is
Yeah,
not really a compliment. There's themes of greed, lust thrown in there. I think of Amanda from Saw. I think of police brutality. I think of Lord of the Flies. I think of slaughterhouses, awful conditions that pigs are put through. It's just a whirlwind of emotions that
yeah.
you can get. And I thought, I really, really want to tap into this. Um, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I want to make a game that involves pigs in some way that isn't just a pig game, like a game where you play as a pig or whatever, or like
Right.
a horror game where pigs are enemies. I wanted to have kind of that background of just pigs and really gross stuff and just a rather insidious nature from something as silly as like the thing Peppa Pig is based off of. Um, so in short, Haram is I guess it's a walking simulator where you just trudge through really desolate environments, and you're accompanied by a pig named Chop who
Yeah.
narrates your adventure. He's the Virgil to your Dante, I guess, and he just goes on about how awful humans are, and I don't know. It's a bit of like a doom scrolling game, you know.
Right. Right.
I I have a lot of mixed feelings about like I don't know the state of climate change in our planet and how people are not doing a well, some people are not doing a great job at you know
Not
trying to alleviate
not
things and
changing the climate. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And just I don't know the nature and even though I'm not American, I do pay attention to a lot of American politics because shit flows upstream in
Yes.
regards to Canada. So seeing a lot of um, the stuff going on in regards to well, pretty much anything regarding American politics.
Yeah. It kind
I
of
was
kind
a
of makes itself everyone else's business a lot of the time.
absolutely, and I just felt kind of nihilistic in regards to like I don't know how profits are treated um, with corporate greed and also like LGBT issues, racism, and all that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make a game that was very nihilistic and sour and just kind of embrace being I don't know, less than pig shit. Just a dude, like just being someone on this planet who is kind of done with life and just is not striving to be anything else than them because we're all doomed. And you know what? Oh well. Which is like really negative.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd actually like fully say that I believe in that, but it's maybe like in times of weakness, I kind of get that feeling of just,
Right. Right.
I don't know, like what are we doing here? And yeah, so it's just a short little, I don't know, 20-minute game where you walk around and you philosophize on like faith, mortality, and things like that. But the main, I guess, draw of the game is the inspiration from the photographer Andres Serrano, who is probably my favorite visual artist if I had to pick one for anyone who's not too familiar. He is a photographer who did the infamous work Piss Christ, which was a photo of a crucifix submerged in his urine,
Yeah.
which unsurprisingly pissed off a lot of people, which I think is really cool because it sparked a lot of debate about art and art funding. But I don't think anything productive came from that conversation, unfortunately. But he just has a lot of really great work, a lot of really striking photography that is incredibly gross, transgressive, but at the same time, kind of gorgeous in a really, really weird way. Like, it's
Right.
kind of weird to say that this photo of blood and semen squished between plexiglass looks really nice, but I don't know. My eyes like what they like, I guess. And
Yeah. That's
yeah,
it's the thing about art, and I guess a lot of things is that there is You don't have to enjoy it in like the very traditional sense.
Mhm. Exactly. And even though a lot of his artwork, well, not all of it, but a good chunk of it kind of inspires disgust, I can't help but be like enamored by the imagery. It's just incredibly powerful, the same way that I find pigs to be very powerful.
Right.
So I just put all of this in a blender and shat out 10 different levels um, that convey different themes with different moods and colors that you just walk through and you take in, and then it's done.
Yeah, that's there is in my own brain there, and this extends beyond games. I think of this concept of it's like films and books and comics. There exists this idea that I think internally it's not a real term. I don't think where I call them something. I call them like ponder wanderers, where it's mostly just about people wandering through a space and just thinking and talking about things.
Yeah, I think that's a nice term, especially because I mean, walking sim is, I guess,
Yeah.
the one regular term people know, but it almost feels like it's a term that's kind of a joke, almost
Right.
like kind of an
Right.
insult, like, oh, it simulates walking. Wow.
Yes, I just watched. I talked about on the top of the show where last night I just watched Stalker, which is very much uh, a walking simulator, if you will. You know,
Mhm.
nothing happens in the movie. It's just people kind of walk and talk about things. But like there is like when you think about like the walking simulator of films or books, it would be very silly to call them walking simulators when they're just films and books. You know.
Yeah.
But we games also are just I think in general have very bad terminology.
Oh yeah.
Like this just the genres and because they at best describe gameplay at best and
Mhm.
describe theme and mood not at all, which is a thing that other like genre for whatever art genres are, they uh, they at least kind of evoke something. You kind of get what someone's talking about when they talk about like Baroque pop, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I find gaming terms tend to more often than not do a disservice to the games
Yeah.
they're describing, unless it's like a very typically well-known, structured mainstream type of game.
Yes, because like your game and whatever Gone Home are both walking simulators, but you would
Mhm.
never put them within the same genre.
Oh, definitely not.
Artistically speaking, they're very different. Even if they touch up, even if there are like glimpses where they touch upon similar thematic ideas, they are still just so abstractly different from one another. And so are
Mhm.
most games within genres.
Yeah.
But the question is, does my little guy run around and does he get power ups? Then it's a Metroidvania or whatever.
Yeah.
Even though one would not put Symphony of the Night and like I'm forgetting the name of the game that is like that Spanish religious Spanish one.
Blasphemous?
Blasphemous, yes.
Yeah.
One would not put those in the same genre necessarily, but they're still very different. Like you can tell, like playing that as someone not from Spain, you go, "There's a lot of Catholic Spain stuff in this."
Mhm.
There's there's like artistic tendencies and like cultural touchstones and things that is what even like lo-fi low poly horror stuff I think gets kind of unfairly like lumped all together too.
Yeah. I would agree. As definitely as someone who's been on the receiving end of that, for
Right.
sure.
Like I have like Haram is very unlike I would say a lot of I play a lot of lo-fi horror games that involve you walking around a space and collecting a number of objects while a scary guy chases you,
Mhm.
which is its own like subgenre of like post Slender of there's a scary guy. He doesn't like you, and you have to collect things, I guess.
Hmm.
Which is kind of does like a whole disservice to the broader genre of it all, which is very
Yeah, I think Itch has a great selection of horror overall.
yeah.
And no disrespect to the people who make the following games, but sometimes I feel that indie horror is represented more by like the meme horror games where it's
Right.
like, oh, here's a cartoon character from some unrelated show, but it's evil this time, and they're chasing you. And it kind of feels like almost like in like the horror cinema where a lot of times horror is viewed as just like, that movie you go to with your friends
Right.
for like, quick laughs and eating popcorn and seeing if you can get scared, and if it's not scary, it's a bad movie. Just
Yeah.
um
I remember when I was younger, I would to be serious about it, I would call good horror movies thrillers.
yes, yeah, yeah. Yeah, like if it's a horror movie but it's good, it's a thriller. If
Right.
it's not a good horror movie, if it's like schlocky, then it's horror. Thriller
Right.
is like pristine.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's cinema.
Exactly. So yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying.
So yeah, it kind of falls into the same. It's that weird thing where I wonder how many people who are making kind of maybe slow burn or like horror adjacent or like games that work in horror but are not about jump scare horror or about like
Hmm.
unsettling horror or about just like keeping you at a state of unease. Uh,
Yeah. I
and
I think for me, it comes from a place of even though all three of the games I've made can be classified as horror, I don't think I've ever actually said to myself, I'm going to make a horror video game. It's just, I'm going to make a game that is this.
yeah,
And then it just ends up kind of being very suitable to horror. I mean, I'm not a scary dude, but I don't know. I like dark, unpleasant
do you like
things. And
horror films? Do you like horror movies?
oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely. I watch at least two well, new to me horror
yes.
movies a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good number of them.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm really big into horror media, but when it comes to making games, I don't operate from the mind frame of I'm going to make a horror video game. It's going to be this but horror. It's
Yeah.
just it happens to end up kind of shaping up that way.
Right, right.
Um,
If it's what you like, it's one of those things where our influences trickle into our work, and it's I think it's better to try and be like this is the thing I want to make, and because I like horror, you're gonna see parts of that within that, but there's setting out to just kind of like I'm gonna make a horror game. It shows sometimes when you're like you're trying to make a thing that you think exists as like a genre or a concept rather
mhm.
than making a thing you want to make and letting your own fascination with like gross horror movies or slow horror movies or just any kind of whatever horror film it kind of shines through, and I think
Mhm.
that works better because I think it's the problem. As someone who also does love horror an awful lot, which means I get sometimes picky about it,
Mhm.
uh, especially with the games where like there's a lot of games that get submitted to Indiepocalypse that are horror games, and I have like 18 let's plays, and I'm like, why would anyone play this game? uh, it feels very shallow. It feels
Mhm.
like you played Slender or one of its 9,000 derivatives and you made one of those things. It's an exercise in emulation
Yeah.
and not like I don't I look at it and go I don't know what influences you. I know you are making one of these games, but I don't know what your like influences are. They're not there. Anyone could have made this game. I could have
Mhm.
made this game, um, and that's the interesting sort of thing about looking at what is the last horror movie you saw? I've got to know. What is a
The last one. That's a
yes?
great question. Last horror movie I watched. I rewatched Tetsuo the Iron Man recently.
Okay,
Yeah,
I've been
I
wanting to
was
watch that.
it's it's something. I think it's
Yeah,
great.
Yes,
Um,
that I like the it's something I love it is like a very good style endorsement for me.
yeah, I mean it's that's definitely I think the most you could do with a $2,000 budget.
Yeah,
It's one of the more unique movies I've seen. Um, I mean, yeah, it's just cool. It's cool.
yes, I'm looking at it's like you know how when you search something it has a bunch of little related films and it's like hey look besides other Tetsuo movies there's like House or you know
Hmm.
Houseu
Yep.
Audition and I can't read what that one is Eraserhead Videodrome all
Yep.
movies that I like.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I imagine you'd really like it whenever you get the chance to watch it.
I
It's
bet
a very interesting experience.
I bet Tubi has it. Tubi's always got my back.
Yeah, yeah. Tubi comes in clutch.
It's yeah. I always think about. I might have been. I can't remember whether it's part of an essay or a like just a tweet that one of the past cover artists had said. That's like if no one else has got me, Tubi's got me.
Yeah. Oh, it's true. They have like the most random selection, but in a really, really good way. There's some movies that I would never expect to see on a streaming service that are just there on Tubi for
Yeah,
free.
right. And it's like it's the dream of like what streaming services should be. You know,
Hmm.
of just like there's so many things like the curation is good. I think we should have them both. I think we should have a nice I want, you know, Criterion being like here's a film critic and they brought you their 10 favorite like 50s noir films and then here's Tubi who's like I've got literally everything you could ever watch
Yeah.
and nothing in between. Get out of here Netflix. You're speaking of getting out of here, Netflix. I have a question. I gotta get in here with a different long running series, and I have to ask you,
Sure.
Steph. Now that you've had time to prepare for this question, uh, do you have a favorite Toho character?
I was gonna say the girls from Death Smiles, and then I found out that was not a Toho game. That's
No.
just another shoot 'em up with little anime girls.
Yes, it's Death Smiles
Um,
Cave. Yes.
yes, it's by Cave. So, the thing is, like, I've been exposed to Toho characters before, just
Right.
not in Toho games, I don't think. You know the game I Want to Be the Guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like a subgenre of games like that where,
Masocore.
yeah, Massacre, and sometimes they got little Toho characters like shooting things on the screen as boss fights.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the name of any of them because they all kind of got the same vibe to them.
Right.
Um, uh, can that be my answer?
Yes, yes. The vague vibe of a Toho character in a Massacre fan game.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, I do like bullet hells, but I don't think I've ever played a Toho one. Ikaruga is more my style,
Right.
but all love for the Toho squad.
Yeah, it's got good music in it.
Yeah, so I've been told, it's they look pretty fun. I
Yeah,
mean, they
it's
keep making them, so they're doing something right
yeah
if
that
people keep playing them.
it's a cool thing. Glad it exists a lot, but we're gonna go on a quick break now, Steph. You believe this time comes and goes so quickly.
Oh yeah.
Um, Eyes Without. You ever seen Eyes Without a Face? I like them. Anyway, I'm just on Twitter, and there people are posting about what can I don't know. Something about Guillermo del Toro and Eyes Without a Face. I don't know what's going on.
It is a good movie.
It is. I love that movie. But I'm not going to get distracted with that because I was pulling up my a different. I was going to my different screen so I could pull up, look at Fubar, and I saw real GDT. Huh? What's going on here? That's when I log in when they're talking about my man Guillermo.
Yeah, did you like Pinocchio?
I have not seen Pinocchio,
Oh,
but
it's really, really good.
I'm a few movies behind, but I am like I've not seen Nightmare Alley either.
Right.
But
Yeah, it's well, when you do get to it, it's I mean, it's very nice, which
Yes.
isn't surprising, but it's definitely a very interesting take on Pinocchio. I would have never expected to have fascism discussed in a Pinocchio stop motion film, but
Oh yeah, well,
it happens, and
yeah,
it's done really, really well.
well, yeah, that's Del Toro's bread and butter.
Yep. Actually, yeah, that is true. Thinking of Pan's Labyrinth and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a worthwhile experience.
Yes, I'm a big booster of Del Toro.
Mhm.
I'm generally just like love his stuff. I'm even anyway. Before I start talking about Kronos, I'm gonna go on break. Steph, thank you for being here, and I'll see you on the other side of about 1 minute and 42 seconds.
Sounds good.
Hello and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was something to do. That and if you it was cut off, but that is of course from the classic 1981 debut album from the Replacements. Sorry, Marv, for that. Take out the trash. I thought about buying. They had like a vinyl of that at like a Newberry Comics. I was like, oh, I should get that, but it was like $40. I was like, that's a lot of money. But anyway, I really like the Mets, as they say. But welcome back. We've got all of our guests here. Lena
Hi.
is back in the allowed back into the channel. Uh, we're here to hang out and chat about I don't know games. Something I wonder sometimes. It's like I wonder if I'm being too mean. You're talking about being too old. I just like I games will be taken serious as a medium once critics feel like they don't need to have an opinion about a child's movie. I think then then maybe I will have hope for games as a medium. But when I
Okay,
see
see, that always weirds me out when like adults are having like these full conversations about children's movies, which I
right,
like get it because there's such thing as good children's media and bad children's media,
yeah,
but it's also like hilarious and fake.
yes, there is a difference between like an Illumination, uh, very like by the numbers kids movie and like
Yeah.
and kind of like all ages. I was watching. I watched. Sometimes I watch old clips of at the movies that Siskel and Ebert show because I'm like these guys know what they're talking about. Sometimes they're fun to listen to. Uh, and they was talking about Babe, Pig in the City, and I was like, I get why they like these movies, and that is ostensibly a kids movie, you know.
Hey, I have
But
something to admit, which is that like we've been talking about movies a lot,
yeah,
and I actually don't know like any movies.
oh, that is fine. I know. I always feel like I don't know any movies at all as well. Uh,
No, but you guys are like watching movies every week. Okay, so my first movie experience was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
yeah.
Wait, the new one though.
Oh,
What's the new
okay.
one called?
Charlie in the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's the new one. And like, I don't know, I was in like in grade two or something, and then we got to previews, and I was like, this is too overwhelming. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry. There's so much sound and noise. And then I think the first scene was like Oompa Loompas or something, and I was just like, I lost it.
I think I saw that movie. Uh, in my mind,
Anyway, the point is that
yeah.
like movies are really scary because they you can't really do things at your own pace.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
That is the trick of movies. They just keep on going no matter what you do.
So shout outs to you guys for being able to handle that, but I can't do it.
Oh, thank you. I think for me it comes from uh I don't really like I try not to take inspiration from games
Right.
as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, not because I mean there's nothing wrong with that. There's tons of games that have been inspired by other games and built upon stuff and that's great. But um I don't know, sometimes I kind of find that there's a bit of a lack of a balanced media diet. maybe not from game developers, but gamers especially, because
Yes.
gamers suck.
Yeah.
Unless you're an Indiepocalypse gamer, y'all are okay. But
Right. Right.
uh,
Of course. Of course.
gamers kind of suck, and I'll see discussions regarding like games, and it seems like the reference or the framework is just other games I have played
Right. Right.
within
And
maybe the
Yeah.
past 10 years. And I mean, that's fine, but I think if games want to be taken as like seriously as an art form, then they kind of need to. I mean, I think that they should embrace the art that came before it and learn from it the same way that uh, losing my train of thought here.
yes.
I don't think games should be super insular. Games
Yes.
exist in the same space as all other kinds of art, and I'll cap this off by saying, I don't know. I'm seeing people talk about how The Last of Us is like the first good game with a story. And
Right.
it's like, I mean, it's cool, but like, no, like there's lots of stuff that's great. It's just,
Right.
I don't know.
And
Anyways, I just watch a lot of movies because oh, actually, no, you go first.
no,
Um,
we're probably on the same wavelength, and I'll actually be even meaner, and I say it feels like a lot of game developers only play video games and don't have a balanced media diet as well.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
and it's unfortunate because I mean, at least as of now, there's some things that have been done in literature and movies countless times that just haven't been done in games before, just
right.
because of games are relatively young.
Yeah.
Um,
Or
and I think it's important to kind of take from that. I When I was working on Haram, for example, to tie it back to my current project, I really wanted to challenge myself in terms of, I guess, cinematography.
yeah.
Just the idea of even before the player moves, just being able to frame things properly. And I took inspiration from colorists in films and shot composition and stuff. And I didn't think I looked at a single game in regards to like structure, themes, or stories when making Haram. It was just all how to, I guess, capture the art of filmmaking, but in a game context. And honestly, it was a very, very, I guess, insightful but productive exercise, to be honest.
Yeah, I often wonder. I've been thinking a lot more about what people mean when they say like it's very video games are very cinematic because I'm like, what
Hmm.
do you? Because it's difficult to convey that through when you give players camera control, because
Hmm.
they frame their own vistas and like, it's very hard. Imagine watching a movie where every viewer is the DP. um,
Oh, geez.
like it's a tricky thing to balance, but I mean, unless you use fixed camera angles, like unless you're a true champion, and and those are also like I hope like in along with the kind of like PS1 style, that era of lo-fi. I hope we start to see some more like fixed camera angles can look very cool, like
Yeah, they can.
when you can
I
stage
saw
your thing.
a Yeah, I saw a Twitter thread saying that like they kind of were mourning the death of maybe not the tank controls, but the
Yeah.
fixed Resident Evil camera angles because there's this whole style of game cinematography that just kind of died with it.
Yeah, I remember there was like I think there was a. It's like at the very beginning, like you can spend. It's very easy to get to if you just want to check it out yourself. But like towards the very beginning of the game Parasite Eve, there's this cool like you're in like there's like a changing room or something, but there's like a reflection. It's very cool looking. I don't know
Mm.
how to. It's a lot of things to visually describe all at once, but there is having like when you can decide like how players view, because I was thinking about like watching movies and like how often will you see a movie and like the characters are cast in reflection or obscured through how many layers of foreground elements that it like honestly like to be honest, if that happened in games people would probably complain about it, but like
Hmm.
if like oh, I can't see my character, why is my character behind these foreground elements? Because if you do it well and like do it meaningfully, it's like conveys these different cinematography. I just remember when I was had a playthrough of Mass Effect, people playing through Mass Effect. I'm like, these games look terrible. My God, like 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 nobody did with all meanness. Then listen, I'm allowed to. You can be criticism. I think I think it's fine to be mean sometimes.
It's okay to be a hater. Keep
Yeah,
going.
it's fine. To be, it's like they were like the worst. It's like nothing but shot reverse shots from the worst sitcom you've ever seen, and it's like none of it looks good. It all looks like so terrible. No, there's like no good angle. Like there's no good like photography in the game at all. It all just looks terrible. And these were
What's
like,
also that thing that people were talking about some years ago about like how we so often conflate good graphics with
yeah,
good aesthetics in games. I feel like that's still kind of a trend that's continuing.
right,
I mean, obviously just like in AAA games especially, where it's like as consumers of like these media products, you're kind of even the word consumer is like you're getting the
yes,
lowest of the low or something. But it's like you're trained to kind of expect a game to be better if it looks more realistic or high definition or something like that,
right,
which is totally like it also removes kind of the participatory element of games because everything is visually described to you already. It's like really really crazy how you can't it doesn't it makes for a less creative experience because you're not projecting as much of your own imagination and interpretation onto the graphics
right.
too.
I think,
Which is
uh,
kind of similar, right?
yeah, yeah. I was thinking about how games are like perhaps like the most literal genre, right? Like
Hmm.
a story in the way that stories are presented. Probably because you are playing the protagonist, so maybe there's less assumption that the audience can like if you read a book, stories or like poetry is probably one of the most abstract of them in terms of like the words are not necessarily literally what's happening.
Yeah.
In the same way that
Yeah.
it's easy to read a story and you can like an audience can understand that these people are abstract concepts sometimes.
I know, let's make gamers think again. It's
Yeah.
like, what is it? What is that rumor where it's like Nintendo won't hire gamers to like work on their games or something? I don't know if that's real or
I
like
don't
where I
know.
heard that from, but I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, you're right. Is this everybody is like literally what they are on the screen, and like what if
Yeah.
people were just like concepts or things where like you're not supposed to take them literally.
Yeah. Again, going outside of that like kind of insular
Yeah.
interpretation of what games should be or something. Um, yeah. Nintendo should hire me because I never play games.
Yes. Yes. Right. No. And how often is fine art meant to be taken 100% literal?
No, yeah.
Exactly.
It is
Yeah.
like, oh no, this is just a picture of people holding each other. It means nothing else. It conveys no meanings or ideas.
Yeah, or just like weird stuff like BioShock Infinite or like BioShock and where there's like, I don't know, some hint of like political critique, but it's like sort of also half baked or
Right, and
something.
it's also the biggest hint you can have in the world.
Yeah, right? It's like, I don't know, it's let's fully bake these ideas.
Yeah, and also at the end of BioShock, there's still a guy you shoot with a gun and you go through a thing 3 times. It's still like,
See, that's horrendous. Like I've never played BioShock. I don't play games, but
yeah, yeah.
this is crazy.
There is still a final boss that you shoot until he dies, um, and you stab him with the thing 3 times because it's a video game. I was thinking like, listen, I'm gonna keep bringing it up because as I put on the stream, I watched Stalker last night, and I've been thinking about it constantly. Uh, but I thought about the things that are like it, like the game Stalker or like Annihilation, uh,
Mm.
and how those things all have guns in them, and antagonists and external threats,
Hmm.
and how there is this because gamers need to complete objectives, and fight things. So
Yeah, it's always fun to like find games that like subvert that. Oh my God, when I was in my RPG Maker phase in high
yes,
school, I was so obsessed with Off, like the Mortis Ghost
yeah,
game, and the whole idea behind that, which maybe I don't know how well it aged because like it was kind of pretty literally directly trying to overturn our idea of like, okay, you beat the bad guy and then but are you really the good guy or are you the bad guy? Which
right,
is like a narrative that is now really commonly explored. But like when I was playing it as a kid, I was like, whoa, this is really cool. And
yeah,
like the way it's doing it is like not so obvious, right? You can decide to go back to places you've already fought and then fight all these different monsters, or you can kind of move on and not have to deal with that too. It's kind of
yeah.
like jagged in that way.
Yeah, there's that exploring that idea of, I think you see it come people going, oh, look, I made you do a bad thing. Aren't you bad about it now? Or like very much forcing you to do it and then immediately chiding you for doing the thing that you couldn't avoid doing otherwise to play the
Yeah,
video game.
yeah. But
But
I think the reason that Off pulled it off is because like, it had also a very poetic way of storytelling where it's like
right,
not everything was kind of literal. You sort of had to figure that stuff out.
right. And
Yeah.
it most often happens in games where you are like, I'm literally this guy and I'm literally killing other literal humans.
Yeah.
So, so there's little room for nuance in them.
Hmm.
It's very prestige TV kind of stuff. Uh, Prestige TV parentheses derogatory. Uh,
Yeah, I as someone who's like frightened by movies, it's
right,
just like, how can games be the space where I participate morally as well? And I don't feel like the moral decisions are already like constrained from the beginning, right?
right.
Like
And
I have something to bring to this too.
I think like the best at that will make you feel like even if there are limited choices, it makes you feel like your choice has like a meaningful impact. And like you are actively making a choice. It's weird that it happened. Like I was playing, what's that whatever that PS1 Dragon Quest is. Uh, very
Oh,
early,
cool. I've never played that.
very early on, I typed PS1 Dragon. Is it like 6 or 5? Um, oh, 7. Of course, just like the Final Fantasy one. Uh, but like at the very beginning of Dragon Quest 7, there's like a bit where someone gets like corrupted by a monster, and
Uh-huh.
you can choose to like run away from them and not fight them. Like
Yeah.
and then someone tries to kill them, and you can like step in the middle of them and like no, uh, don't kill this monster person, and then they'll fade away through other reasons. I think they kill themselves or something, or that effect. But it's like it uses the language of the video game, of like you can run from battles and you can talk to NPCs, but it allows you to make a very natural choice. But there isn't like a text box that pops up and says, "Do you want to kill the monster? Do you want to?" And you don't get a morality slider after. It's not video game bullshit.
Yeah, okay, exactly. So like I said that I don't play games, but there's two games that I've played that and enjoyed.
Yeah.
One of them being Stardew Valley and the second one being Disco Elysium.
Okay.
So I feel like my criteria for a game that I will enjoy is something that gives me a lot of space, first of all,
Yeah.
in that like moral sense, but also in terms of actions, but also something that and like well written too, right? But then also it has to not be hard in the sense of like I have no hand-eye coordination.
Yes.
So if your game involves any kind of mechanical skill, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to play it.
That's that weird thing about video games where a movie, even if it's overwhelming and scares you, technically speaking, if you sat down and put a movie on, it would go front to back without you having to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Whether you can emotionally handle it, who knows? But the movie will keep playing.
That's what I appreciate so much. And even like a simple game like Stardew Valley, which
Yeah.
is about farming, it's like I'm in that shit thinking about home ownership, thinking about like domestic structures of like family, and like, it really gets you existentially questioning
Yes. Yeah.
things.
Yes. An experience for me with a good movie is when I walk away from it and then I'm feeling like the weight of my actions, as I like grab a
Mm.
fork, and I'm like, it feels more intentional. I'm like living in the. I watched. Listen, you know what I'm going to talk about. I watched a special feature on that Stalker disc because folks, buy discs, you get special features, and directors' commentary and special features are like the spice of life.
Mm.
I love them. I don't consume content like really based yourself in like a piece of art. But there was a critic who was talking about the movie, and he was talking about how when you leave movies, you are in another world, like for a time when you leave a movie, and like really trashy, terrible ones, it lasts for like a second. But sometimes,
Mm.
if they're really good, and they're like, it will maybe even change you forever, like or like that world lingers with you for even longer, if not the rest of your life.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
retweet.
Yes, I retweet. What was that guy's? I forget that guy's name. He wrote a book about Stalker because he liked it a lot. um, but I think he's an English film critic. Zona, a book about a journey to the, Jeff Dyer. Jeff with the English GEO, Geoff style.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, but yes, no, there's. It's also why I like to go. There's I've probably said on the show before that bit about that Ebert wrote about Gamera, where he's like, uh, when you're a child, you like Gamera because he's a flying turtle and you like to see a flying turtle. But as you get older, you evolve to more serious tastes like Air Force One because it features a president fighting terrorists on a plane or whatever, which is, and he's snide about like, is that really more serious? But then
Yeah.
you grow older and wiser still, and you realize that both films are equally absurd, but there's a certain charm to a flying turtle uh, that you miss. And there's like, there's I don't know. I've kind of lost my own. I lost my way along the path, but the point was that
That's okay.
I like art. um,
Yeah, art's
and
cool.
and I've read bad reviews of things like of things I enjoy, and like a good I will still enjoy a good review that does not like the thing I like because you can still see why somebody does not like it, and they're often like still describing the same film you watched, but through a different lens, or they had a different takeaway, but it's not like it doesn't feel like they were watching something different.
Yeah, when people can bring their own ideas to stuff, it's like I can't be offended about this. This was
Yeah.
interesting to read either way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love dissenting opinions. I love because I'm not gonna like a movie, then go onto Rotten Tomatoes and see that as a 43%, and then now I dislike the movie.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, I did watch one movie in the last four in the last 2 years that I really liked,
okay.
which was Happy Hour. Have you guys seen that?
I don't
I
think
have
no.
not.
It's like it's a what's his name? Ryusuke Hamaguchi. He did Drive My Car.
Okay.
Oh, that's a great movie.
I haven't watched that one, but this one is like this crazy, like it's like 6 hours long or something. It's like 7 hours long. I watched it in 3 sittings.
Yes,
And
that
it's
was
just about like, sorry, yeah?
no. I was saying that was me when I was watching Jean Dielman late at night, and I was usually I give myself 2 hours to watch a movie, and I was like, wait a minute, this movie's like 3.5 hours long. I didn't realize, so I watched it in 2 sittings.
Yeah, I think it's like no one can actually sit for 6 hours, right?
Yes.
Like we did the right thing.
Yeah.
But
5.283 hours. 5 hours and 16 minutes for happy hour.
yeah, there you go. Something like that, I thought. literally nothing happens except like it's just about like these 3 or 4 women who are just like living their lives and like having friendships and relationships.
Yeah.
But somehow it's like the most riveting thing I've ever watched. You know what you were talking about like how like if a movie is good, it'll make you stay in that world forever.
Yeah.
Like I really feel like that's what happened with this movie.
Oh, I've got to. This is yes. I no. This is. I sometimes ask the question with what is a piece of unrecommendable art that you love, and this is a 5-hour movie where nothing happens. Is
Yeah,
Oh.
I feel that way about the movie Love Exposure, which is 4 hours. Which a lot of stuff does happen, but
yeah.
not easy to recommend. But
Ooh.
yeah. Um, but this movie looks great, Happy Hour. I mean, I love to drive my car, so
Yeah, I bet
uh
you would like it then.
yeah, I gotta add this to the watch list.
Yeah. There's and I joke about these kind of things and pick on people for this sorts of stuff, but I think um the reason I pump Indiepocalypse every month and like I still try occasionally to get into more mainstream avenues is because I think for as much as it's easy to like to poo poo on like the mainstream audience that doesn't like anything or whatever, they have no taste, no taste for art. I think actually a lot of people are actually probably more inclined to actually go into this like more traditional art space, and
Mm.
they just like they need the right avenue, they need the right entry point.
Yeah, people have great capacity to like
Yeah,
empathize and stuff. It's just yeah, it's also kind of a responsibility on the part of the developer to trust them to do that too.
yeah, like
Yeah.
when it was at its peak, I joked that all people who were like getting into Columbo that they should watch Mikey and Nikki, but I think a lot of people probably would make that transition from like Columbo to Mikey and Nikki, even though it is like a improvised movie where doesn't have like the same clean plots or whatever. But what a film! Also, I think about that one a lot. These dudes, I 2022 is or 2021 2022 is the years I realized, wow, I like Peter Falk. That guy rules.
He's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like what an actor! I just watched A Woman Under the Influence like a couple of days, like last week, I think. Man, what a guy. Anyway, movies. They're cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I respect them even though I'm scared.
Yes. Yeah. I am personally getting very close to just going full Columbo mode as well. I've been being won over. If only for like to catch some of those, like, because it seems like there's a killer guest list also. Um, but anyway, Columbo seems like a cool guy. I like the way he likes his wife. True wife guy heroes. But yeah, there's like it's art, it's games, it's a whole that's all what this thing Indiepocalypse speaking is broadly about. It's about I think that people have this wide capacity. I think that art comes from people, and like like you said, people have a capacity to empathize with other people, like more than we think they do, or more than we assume that we do.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of like if anyone said if you took a gamer, like if we're talking a real gamer, they they, they love playing games where they level up and have battle passes and all those sorts of things. But if you set them down with like an issue, they may not like all of them, but then like any one game could like hit them, in a way that's like
I want to actually talk to real gamers more
yeah,
because okay, so during my interview thingy with you, I talked about how like I got really into Smash
yeah,
during the pandemic. And I was like, okay, let's turn this obsession into real material action, and I'm gonna sign up to sell art at like a major tournament in
Yeah.
Toronto, which was Get on My Level.
Okay.
Anyway, if anyone's
Yes.
into Smash, come to Get on My Level.
That I think I've heard that name before.
Yeah, yeah. So, I was like, it's a chance to meet some of like the players that I really love watching, and like also, interact with people who really actually truly like Smash, which like in my life, there's like maybe two people.
Right.
There's like almost zero people who
Yes.
relate with me on this level, you know what I mean? And I got there and I was like, it was an, I got there kind of feeling like, okay, this will be an interesting anthropological experience because it's all just going to be boys and like, probably like just sweaty, gross men also. And
Yes.
like, it'll just
Gamer
be
convention.
weird. Yeah, right. That's what you'd expect. But actually, I went and the ventilation was pretty good.
Yeah.
So not too many smells. There were actually a lot of queer folks there, which was pretty cool to me. And I guess makes sense too. Like the demographic of gamers, there's like a lot of people who are queer.
Right.
And like
And that.
even in a game like Smash, which is like just a beat 'em up, right? Or
Right.
like
Right.
just a platformer fighting game. And like and also I was surprised by like how many really young people there were. Like there were so many teenagers there, which makes sense because I
Right.
mean it's a game for children. And then I started like enjoying myself genuinely more and more over the course of the weekend. And like I was also selling zines and stuff. So a lot of my practice right now is in comics, and there were a lot of people I was having like really engaging discussions with about like comics and like what it means to be in the Smash community and how it's kind of like how it kind of sucks to be a gamer too.
Right.
Like it was actually really, really nice.
Yeah. I think there is like. I think there is like a very like outward interest that people talk about a lot, but I think most
Uh,
people do have like deeper interests than they lead on like publicly because
yeah.
it's a lot easier to talk about Mario than it is to talk about like you know a fine art. you know.
Yeah, it was actually really fun. I spent the weekend with dorks and I
Yeah.
totally loved it. So what does that say about me, you know?
Right. Right. It says you're a dork. I mean, you just gotta.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
but there is yeah. I think people are just. I think it really is just like a small section of people who are like aggressively online, who are really in these like who never leave high school,
Hmm. Hmm.
that are really caught up in this idea of limited like interests or like I am in these XYZ fandoms or whatever, and not like just like oh actually people just have broad selections of tastes because people like stories a lot.
Yeah, and it's like when you encounter people like that, it's like they deserve to be socialized too.
Right, right, and you never unless you let your little like sicko taste in on them every now and then, just like, hey, what if you tried this thing? What if you,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
what if,
I agree.
yeah,
I think overall people are much more eclectic than generally than people give them credit for. I mean,
right,
one thing that kind of bugs me about I mean, it's funny to hear, but when people go on about like, oh, this person's a normie, yada yada, because they don't like the really niche things that I specifically like. I don't know. It kind of rubs me the wrong way. Like, I don't know. I know people who I guess would quote unquote fit the bill of a, normie because they
yeah,
don't follow games or anime. But if you ask them about like their favorite records or, what kind of plants they like or what kind of fashion designers they're into, they've got stories, they've got all kinds of stuff from all kinds of different um interests that all just kind of come together. And yeah, I think everyone's, for the most part, everyone is kind of eclectic in their own way. I think very rarely do you actually see someone who's like a quote unquote NPC, I guess, who just goes to work and then goes home and does nothing. I think everyone kind of has their own way of
right,
just being a little scatterbrained and just liking all of these interests that may not seem related, but it makes them who they are. And I kind of wish that that was embraced more as opposed to putting people in boxes based on their surface reality.
Right, right. There's like, because like, even to like the extent of like, letting people enjoy things, also let people dislike things. You know,
Hmm. Yeah.
like the that weird, because both of these things, it comes from like this push towards like homogeny, I guess, an agreement on something. Like you have to be validated by a broader culture in order to enjoy the thing that you like. And
Yeah, not true.
right, it would be
It's
truly
cool to be into stuff that people don't like.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'm into stuff people don't like all the time. It's
It's
great.
punk.
Yeah, and I'm not talking just like people on the internet. I'm talking about my friends. Be like, oh yes, listen, I've no end to the amount of like, because I get the car that I get to drive, and people are just like, I don't like this music, and well, that's too bad because it's my car,
Yeah.
so you have to listen to my music. And it doesn't like, I'm like, no, I can't like Neutral Milk Hotel anymore. I will. I'm a sicko for that shit, but such a sicko. I even own On Avery Island. That's how you know
Wow.
I'm the true
See,
sicko.
that's what high school me was listening to when I made Lucid Lucy.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful high school album.
Yeah.
It's such like it's in the airplane over the sea is one of the perfect. I'm getting out of my. I when you feel like you're growing up and getting into real music, it is like a perfect gateway into that.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
Because the lyrics are so like accessible too.
yes, yeah, it's
Yeah.
but also just weird enough that are like it's not like very
Yeah, it
literal.
makes sense to your child brain.
Right, right, but it's not very literal pop music lyrics where it's like there was a point where I was like listening to a lot of like retail music, and it was like I confused two Katy Perry songs because they were almost identical in terms of like they're just like you should feel good about yourself in the most literal turn of phrase, and like I realized that pop music is more about like the literalism of lyrics. I think like that's my
Hmm.
definition of pop music.
Yeah, there's something nice about a good literal pop song.
Yeah,
But I guess that is they're trying to like distill a feeling into like a phrase or something.
right,
That's kind of the science behind it, I guess, right?
into a and they will maybe wade into simile at the most, but nary a metaphor in sight. Uh, but
Okay, I take it you're not a pop head.
I'm not that much of a pop head. I'm not a poptimist.
All
Uh,
right, but give me one pop song you like.
I actually do like plenty of pop songs. I really there was a time where I was listening to Body Talk Part 3 a lot.
Oh my God, Robin?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Scandinavian pop is cool.
There was yeah. I also really like what's it that guy I forget his name, Jens Lekman a lot.
Who's
Uh,
that?
he's like a what? Where is Jens Lekman from? He's it's like pop music, I guess. He is from. He always Swedish, but
Mm.
he does a lot of like pop music stuff. I was spent a lot of time in college listening to it's power pop, but I spent a lot of time listening to the New Pornographers.
See,
Uh,
I don't know those people. So are they really pop?
they're more like power pop, I think. They're like a Canadian supergroup. You know,
Oh.
Dan Behar and who's the guy that is like who's just no Destroyer is Dan Behar. Who's Destroyer? Someone help me out here. Who's Destroyer? Is that
Uh,
the guy
yeah,
who
I'm drawing a blank.
the guy who is Destroyer? Uh, is that Dan Behar? I think it might be. Yeah, it is. So who's the guy I'm thinking? Anyway, uh, we're not gonna get in the weeds of me looking up the new porno. Who's the guy I was thinking of then? Oh, Carl Newman.
As
Probably.
much as I would love to be tested
Yeah.
on pop music more, I have to have my afternoon meal.
Yes. Yes.
Not lunch, not dinner, but 4 p.m.
Right. No, this is me. We reached the point where I'm just kind of like rambling about things.
I love
But
that.
this is Indiepocalypse is not a radio show so much as it is a like those post-con, like kind of like those post-con hangouts. Like after you're done tabling, you're just chilling out to get on my level, and you're just kind of talking about whatever.
Oh my God, I love. We're building
Yeah,
that atmosphere.
that is the thing I usually try to, especially with this group segment, what I'm trying to um, create here, where it's like, how often are listen? Maybe there is a chance, there is a far from zero chance that I will be in Toronto, but the rest of the world, it's a little trickier for me to travel around to, especially to get all these people in the same room. And this is like in the same room. That's not networking, but it's like what's a thing that's when you meet new people, but you're not
What,
trying
like
to.
hanging out?
Oh yeah, like hanging out. Trying to find the word for just meeting someone but not trying to extract value from your conversation. Yes, hanging out. Uh,
But you should hit me up when you're in Toronto.
yeah, yeah. I don't know when. Probably. I assume like the next 2024 TCAF if they host the game thing there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be here for a while, so.
Yes, yeah. People usually don't move that often. I find. At least like make considerable moves. But yeah, there's a lot of I think I know a lot of people in Toronto, the Toronto or the Greater Toronto Land. Is you call it Toronto Land or is that
Greater
GTA, I
Toronto
guess.
area. Yeah,
GTA?
Yeah.
That's what it
exactly.
was. Yeah, it's not Chicago Land. That's the land one. Uh, I think. But yeah, there's and you have subways that have cards now. That's exciting.
It's true. Although our transit system, I'm worried about it.
That's okay. I'm worried about the Boston transit system sometimes because I feel like it's
Yeah.
falling apart. But the first time I went there, I had to use like coins or whatever. I had to use physical money.
That's really fun and old-timey.
It was very strange to me. Like they would just put, like they just started putting in like the machines. I think were physically installed in some places, but they weren't set
Right,
up yet.
right. Yeah.
But I never done
Yeah,
it.
come through. We'll have cards.
Yes, I think I still have one. I have like my New York card and my I save the cards if they give you permanent cards just so because I technically probably still have a couple of dollars on them, and I'm not giving up those dollars ever.
Yeah,
But
it was great meeting and talking to you guys.
yeah, that's it's this
Likewise, yeah.
part of this thing is getting people in the same room that would never likely be in the same room because it's tricky to do that. I mean, last week there was people in the U.S. and Thailand, which often
Wow.
are not going to be in the same room together
Hmm.
because travel is expensive. Uh, but thank you both for being here on the show. Glad to have you. Glad to have your games in the zine. Glad to. Some of you may have even gotten a payout yesterday. I don't remember which issues got payouts yesterday.
I did receive some cash in my PayPal.
Yes, so
Yeah.
Steph, you got the vaunted $5 to $7.
Hey, don't undersell yourself. It was like $9.50 something cents.
But is that Canadian?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, listen. Uh, it was cool. It was a nice
Yeah.
little surprise.
Yeah, no, when I went to Canada, I was spending money like a king with my US
Yeah.
dollar. Uh, but yeah, no, I, I, I think royalties are fun, and I think it's probably, I think it's nice to get like, even if it is like once every 6 months, to just forever get money for something you did. I think there's a cool little value add to that, you know.
Yeah, it's cool.
Just like I I've said this multiple times on the show, multiple times, but I like the idea of like listening to it was some writer or actor on a podcast talking like they're getting their $2 checks in the mail from an episode of something they did. It's like yeah, nice. People should get money forever, so long as we require money to live, which is I think the foreseeable future.
Yep.
But before I start going on and not actually ending the show, Steph, what have you got to promote? Where can people find your stuff?
Oh, that's a great question. You can find me on Twitter at Steph underscore Pinto underscore GD.
Yeah,
You can find my itch page at steph-pinto.itch.io.
and that's Steph with one
And
F.
yes, with one F. And yeah, that's it really. I don't really have anything else to promote. I don't plan on making a solo project for at least a couple more months. I'm taking a little break.
Yeah,
But follow me if you want. I like to retweet cool things
yeah.
sometimes.
And you know what?
And yeah,
Those existing projects, they don't get bad. Turns out old art doesn't get bad because it gets older, usually.
exactly. Feel free to check out my stuff on itch if you haven't already.
Right.
It's there and it will continue to be free.
Yes. You
So,
might say
yeah,
one is the 17th best game of 2021,
that is
according,
right. That
according to
that
Slant
yeah.
Magazine.
Yes, that is correct.
For so long as that page exists.
Yeah, I actually printed out that like I screenshotted that
Yeah.
that website and printed it on a paper so I always have it.
Yes, because there are some games that I have invited to Indiepocalypse, and like their accolades are for redirected dead links. So it's
Yeah.
like uh, it's part of why I want to get into making like the physical versions of Indiepocalypse, so that there's like these little USB sticks floating around forever that have
Yeah,
Indiepocalypse
that's
on
a
them.
cute idea.
Also, I highly recommend if you're making video games. I'm pointing to my webcam that is never on during these kind of events, so nobody can see them. My for friends only webcam, and I'm pointing my cassette tape that I have of the newest Indiepocalypse. They look cool. Cassette tapes look very cool.
They
And
do.
they're a great way to hold games if you're trying to sell games physically at like a get on my level,
Great idea.
That is, and Lena, that is a good idea. I've been encouraging people to do similar, like just go to like non, like traditional like gaming conventions or like even just like zine fests or stuff with your games.
Yeah, that happens a lot in Toronto actually because of like Bit Bazaar, and we have
Yeah,
like a lot of zine fairs and that kind of thing where gamers and comic people mix. So it's
yeah.
always fun to get a CD-ROM or like a USB key or something funny.
I keep submitting. I have a Broken Pencil subscription because I keep submitting Indiepocalypse to. I'm trying to convince them to like me.
Oh my God, you totally should. I'm doing a comic for them soon-ish, which is going to be turned into a Twine game, which I'll link to you when it's done
I
because I
do.
think you'd be into that.
I do have. I have. Technically, the thing is, technically, I know that is like not technically like a zine. That would be eligible
Yeah,
for it. But it's one of those things
well,
where I submit because a lot of times I will submit things just to get in front of people's eyes.
yeah. I think it's relevant,
Yeah,
and Zach, who's the editor there, loves games, so.
and I do like. I do enjoy just getting that the free subscription that comes with submitting your zine to their yearly like sub- award show or whatever. I'm pretty sure they give. That's got to be why I'm getting a Broken Pencil every month.
Shout out to Broken Pencil.
Yes. Shout out to your local zines. Lena, what have you got to shout out? Where can people find your work?
My work is usually on Instagram at Lena W_U. But if you want to like look at me complain for some reason, I'm also on Twitter with the same
Yes.
username. And you can find my games at lenaw.itch.io. And it's got everything from the first Jam game that I made to this really weird Twine game that I made with my developer friends. So
Yeah.
you can check out that stuff there.
And if you want to find all those places, if you can remember them, you have your own website.
It's true.
You have
LenaWoo.com.
just go to
Check it out.
LenaWoo.com. I love when people have their own websites. Oh, Steph Pinto,
It's
you also
fun.
have one. I missed that one.
Oh, well, it's okay. I missed it too. I forgot I had it.
Yeah.
Yes, steph-pinto.com.
Just folks, get your own website. It's so cheap to do. I love it.
It's great.
Uh, get out of the. You don't need to be. Listen, you got to be on Instagram and whatever eventually, but you can also have your own website. They'll
It's cool.
and they can't take that away from you. But anyway, that was Indiepocalypse. You can find my stuff at indiepocalypse.com, of course. Indiepocalypse 39 just came out. We got. I truly love commissioning games for. It's like it does not happen very often. I want a lot of stuff about Indiepocalypse to catch on, and paying developers to make short games is something I really want to catch on because their game developers are very cool. They make a lot of very cool games, and like all these games in Indiepocalypse, they've been made in like I commission games 3 months out, so they've all been made in like less than 3 months, and they're all just like these like truly like amazing experiences that can just be made in so little time. You do not need $4 million to make a video game. You do not need 7 years to make a video game.
Hmm.
It's a wide open medium full of potential, and you ought to pay people to make it because unfortunately people need money, and if you just kind of rely on the people who have enough money already and have the time and all that stuff to just make games, you kind of get a very narrow selection of like what games can be. GDC is the 1%, if you will. But yeah, you can buy it there. You can. What's the other thing? What the hell do you do with Indiepocalypse? All right, you can submit your games to it through indiepocalypse.com/submit. If you made a game, you can be like, oh, I made a game a year ago, 10 years ago, 27 years ago. It doesn't matter. I don't care. Good games are good games are good games. I'm all about spelunking that art, amateur, and it is about trying to find like the what's the word I'm looking for? Just trying to like preserve, like it's one mixture of like what's the word I'm looking for? It's a mixture of curation and preservation in Indiepocalypse. It is not just like all about, hey, what's your newest hottest game? What's the biggest trend going on? What is the fresh thing you're talking about? It's kind of everything. It's like, hey, I'm the kind of guy who would dig through a record store. And I looked it up. It was the Shags I was thinking about. It was Philosophy of the World.
Oh.
But that is that thing I was thinking about forever ago. I couldn't remember, but luckily I'm good at using Google searches. So I love to just kind of spelunk around. If you think your stuff is messy and teenage, maybe it's also very good. If you think your stuff is like overly dramatic, or you think it is kind of too amateurish, or any number of like, if you compare it to even like, your polished budget indie game and go, oh, my game's not like that. I'm looking there, I'm rubbing my hands, I'm going, good. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for
Super.
I'm looking for the potential of the medium, so you can submit your games there to indiepocalypse.com/submit. You can also subscribe to Patreon, indiepocalypse.com/Patreon. We've got yearly options. It saves like 2 months or whatever, I think. And if you want like a year's worth of like the freshest, like if you want a year's worth of like the cutting edge of game development, it's only $5 to get just commissioned games. I think it's like $50 for like less than the cost of a AAA game. You get 12 of just kind of the hottest indie alternative devs just making a brand new game for you once a month from all over the world. That's the part.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that gets missed sometimes. Is all over the world. You know, like I talked about those last two developers, those U.S. and Thai developers, were the last two commissioned games, and
Cool.
this month is from Chile. You know, potential. The world is
Very
wide.
exciting.
Yes, I'm rambling now the most, but thank you both for being here. Steph, Lena, uh, glad to have you here on the show in the zine, putting up with my overly rambling end of show thing as I keep on going because I talk about this thing Indiepocalypse forever, but
Thanks for having us, Andrew.
no.
Yeah, this was a blast. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. Where I gotta find my traditional "Where's Fubar" so I can find the ending song so that I can close it. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
See ya.